A huge thank you to Robert Bishop for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Loot the key to everything versus partners Ravos and Tormod, Narset and Illuna. One lander, so Mulligan. Into multiple lands and not much of anything else really. We can protect our commander at least, so get it out for a turn and then get Mithril Coat down to protect it, and that will give us a couple of card types at least. Does loot count itself? It's other non-land permanents, so it doesn't even count itself as a creature. Yeah, I'll go down a card with this. I don't particularly like that hand. I need 2 nothing but mana, excellent. Yeah, we'll just try this and hope that we get some really good stuff off the top. So we can throw away a basic, and we'll not crack the Wayfarer's Bauble because that will be our means of exiling stuff off the top with loot. We do draw on the first turn, and of course it's a land, so got a couple of means of surveilling here at least. And there's a Yavimaya on top, so we'll certainly put that into the graveyard. Just lands from our opponents, so no one getting off to too fast a start. We've got a creature and an artifact card type there. And it will have our commander trigger twice as well, so we may well get back into this one. Not that we're anywhere close to out of it yet, but didn't start off with the best hand. Go for another surveil land after a shuffle. And once again clearing a land off the top, so into the graveyard it goes. Lightning Greaves for Narset. Alright, the Orzhov player not doing anything. We draw into another decent creature in a Tali. So let's go Tropical Island and we'll play out our commander and hope it survives a cycle. Noteworthy, it does have Ward 1, so we'll see if anyone forgets that and tries to target it. Slime Against Humanity. Haven't seen this one played yet. So starting off with a 2/2 trample and a Pristine Talisman for the Jeskai player. Alright, and cycle during that turn a Desert of the Glorified. Gets down a Volrath Stronghold this turn. So it looks as though we're going to survive with the loot intact. So we get to exile the top card here. That is a Field of the Dead, which I think is going to be worth getting out. It's a shame that we're not throwing out the Roaming Throne though. Yeah, I don't want to miss out on Field of the Dead. That's one of the few lands that I would actually not want to miss out on. It would be relevant later on in the game, so we'll just pass at that. We can hold up the Boseiju at least, which I may well use on the Lightning Greaves with Narset. The 2/2 comes in at us. We could always give up on loot for now and go for Wayfarer's Bauble to allow us into something like a Tali or Consecrated Sphinx. And Mind Stone for Narset, so could still go for the commander here. And before that comes in, they may well have a Fierce Guardianship or something like that, so we'll go after the Greaves for a single green. Does ramp them, unfortunately. Yeah, I'd be tempted to go for the Sphinx, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And again, cycling at the end of the turn, a Drifting Meadow this time. Noteworthy that lots of blue mana is being held up here, but it could be a fact or fiction or something like that. So, like I said, it's risky. We might lose out on loot a couple of times here, once on our upcoming turn, and then again if the Consecrated Sphinx is countered or destroyed. But this early in the game, it's difficult to argue against cracking Wayfarer's Bauble. So not getting any cards off our commander. Alright, a Topiary Stomper, so we could go for that, and then play the Roaming Throne. That wouldn't be the worst, because I don't trust this open blue mana. So yeah, let's go for that instead, now that we've drawn into that. Does this come in tap though? Ah, the land comes in tapped. I'm glad I checked now. So in that case, we'll go for the Sphinx. Test the blue player. And priority is being held up. Alright, they were holding up a big score, so could still go for a counter. Discarding another slime to that. Alright, and assuming that the partner player doesn't have anything to say about it, which he apparently does, we'll hopefully get round to this turn and at least draw 2. But there is a chop down. I think we are public enemy number 1 by the looks of it. But we're making them use their cards at least, and they haven't gone after loot yet, so it's only a matter of time before we get some triggers off that are actually effective. Roaming Throne does have Ward 2, and this reasonably early in the game we're going to be able to dodge the spot removal on that, hopefully. I think it will be Topiary Stomper and Roaming Throne next turn, and we'll already start triggering Field of the Dead actually. So there is Illuna. See if anyone has any spot removal left for that. It is going to mutate onto the Ooze token. So exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an on land. And that gets them into Akroma's Memorial. So are they still worried about us? Illuna goes in at Narset, and that is an 8-8. So 2 more hits from that and they'll know about it. Ugin the Ineffable destroys a permanent with 1 or more colours, so personally I'd be going after this, but might go after loot. And yeah, minusing down on that, so it's an interactive game so far. And then a Command Sphere for 1 mana, because their colourless things cost 2 less thanks to Ugin. Seen a lot of colourless cards at the moment, which is strange with Narset. Swinging into the left, do have to worry about haste and evasion from the Memorial, and able to steal the big score. Discards an Aura Thief to that. And then a File of Galadriel, so when you draw a card while you have no cards in hand, draw 2 instead. And they've only got 2 left at the moment. Not seeing too many instants and sorceries from him though, so we'll assume that he's after stealing them with the Narset. Playing the Giant Killer from exile, followed by his first commander in Tormod the Desecrator. Alright, so loot staying in play this whole time. And our opponents have tapped out this time. There is the Mithril Coat, so Mithril Coat and Roaming Throne maybe? But we do want to start triggering field as well, so yeah, best to get down Topiary Stomper sooner rather than later, I think. We can get a basic island out with that. So that triggers field for the first time. And turns out it was worth taking off that turn, I think. And then we can play our land for the turn to trigger field again. And that gives us the 4 mana we need for the Roaming Throne, and hopefully the board stays intact. Otherwise we'll regret not going for the Mithril Coat, although there's nothing to stop us going for our commander again next turn with Mithril Coat on it. Anyway, our commander is a beast. Not sure how many beasts we have in the deck, but it's our commander that we want to be copying. And then we'll go after Ugin, which is potentially risky, but yeah, we'll do that. We could have encouraged this player to use his haste to go after Ugin, but we'll take out that Planeswalker while we've got the chance. And not being punished, we do manage to take down the Planeswalker. A Slime Against Humanity again, and making a 6-6 this time, with protection from a bunch of stuff, and flying and haste and the like. Another one. So a 6-6 and a 7-7, 4 cards left in hand. And a 6-6 goes into the left. I bet we get the 7-7, we do. So going down to 30. Thaumatic Compass, yet another colourless spell for Narset. And then activating the Thaumatic Compass, so need 7 for this, I think. Yeah, and currently controls 6. Alright, and there we see Swords to Plowshares. Onto the Roaming Throne, unfortunately. Remembering the ward, so managing to pay that. We'll still get 1 card off the loot, but not doing too well with this commander so far, thanks to all the interaction. Commander Sphere being cracked for a card draw as well. And then Narset swinging into the right and grabbing a Lightning Greaves with that. Obviously wants to protect his commander when we previously destroyed the Greaves. I think we slowed him down quite a bit with the Lightning Greaves though, being destroyed previously. Giant Killer jumping in the way of Narset, and the copy of Greaves goes on to the commander. Necrotic Sliver can destroy a permanent, maybe Akroma's Memorial, so that we can at least start chump blocking these oozes. Does have protection from black, so probably just going to hold off on this and see what happens. Alright, so see what we get with loot this time. That is a Sol Ring, which is an artifact, and a Lotus Cobra, not getting into the lands anymore after the beginning of the game where we couldn't stop seeing them. We will play Sol Ring from exile, and that allows us into an Atali, which might bait removal from our opponents. Do have to attack him with Atali, we're not seeing any haste at the moment, unfortunately. And it's noteworthy, we could put Mithril Coat onto the Atali if we wanted to. I think I'd rather just have the loot in play though, assuming that there's no board wipe. So we'll hold it up like that. Let's go for Topiary Stomper down the middle. And I imagine that these ooze tokens are going to come in towards us. There's nothing we can do about that at the moment though. Although holding up the blue mana may well encourage Illuna not to turn in towards us. Maybe be worried about us countering something that he does. There's a Slime Against Humanity again. And another one. Slowly getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, getting into that Akroma was pretty good. I wonder if the only reason to play Illuna is to get into the Akroma. See if we get everything swinging in at us. We get a 9-9. And then a 6-6 to the right. 7-7 down the middle. I bet we get the 8-8 as well. We do. So taking 17 here. Allowing us to take more of a hit. And Necrotic Sliver not going after the Akroma's Memorial. So we plummet down to 17. We are at the lowest life total so far. 7 lands controlled with the Thaumatic Compass now. So we'll have to be wary of the Maze of Ith that thing becomes. Delayed Blast Fireball, got that in this deck, so that will not hit the Atali. Did they even cast that from? Yeah, for 6 mana they must have cast it from exile. So let's go for an attempt of the Mithril Coat onto loot. Not worthy that this isn't going to touch the ooze creatures and it wouldn't destroy them anyway because it's only 5 damage, but protection from red means no damage will be dealt to those tokens. And then the Necrotic Sliver is now going after the Akroma's Memorial. Like I said before, allowed us to take the damage first. So we'll trigger with Mithril Coat, put it onto the loot so that we keep a couple of creatures. Loot's obviously going to be a very good blocker at this point. Still able to be targeted with something like a Swords to Plowshares though. Could go for the Delayed Blast Fireball as well, and maybe get rid of the Ooze tokens. Anyway, Narset swings in to the left. Goes after the Fireball again, so down goes Atali, but we get to keep the loot. Again, only exiling 1 creature. And we'll go down below 10. Unless there is some kind of counterspell. An offer you can't refuse, so keeping the use tokens, we will keep our life and our creatures in play. And likely that Narset goes down here. Was a nice try, but apparently not going to be able. Only blocked with a 6/6 there, so maybe could have buffed Narset enough to survive that, but I think it was on 6 toughness. Anyway, Fellwar Stone coming down after that. 1 more card available. We'll try to get it out, I imagine, because wants to empty his hand with this in play. That is a Mesmeric Orb, so time to start milling as well. Then drawing with the Mind Stone will get him into 2 cards. Then Thaumatic Compass flips round, so like I said, we need to be careful of swinging in over here because it will likely trigger or activate the Maze of Ith. Mesmeric Orb triggering for the first time, gonna mill a bunch of stuff like I said. Astral Drift got milled, we assume that this was some kind of cycle deck. Eternal Dragon as well. Seeing a Restoration Gearsmith. When it enters the battlefield, return a target artifact or creature from graveyard to hand. Didn't see what that was. Went after the Giant Killer. And with 3 mana held up, is able to blow up something good. Should probably be holding that for a 9/9, but I mean, we have no choice. But we could swing in Atali over here. We don't care if it really connects. And that would discourage our opponent from blowing it up. Although he might just do it here to stop us getting the trigger. So Mesmeric Orb does some milling. Got some decent stuff there. Imprisoned in the Moon. Mana Crypt and a bunch of lands we don't really care about. Ugin would have been the best thing really, but we were a few draws away from that. Actually, would have got it here. We would have drawn into it, exiled the land and the Mana Crypt and drawn into Ugin, so Mesmeric Orb making a difference. Anyway, see what we exile. Probably something totally irrelevant. Yep, Azusa and a land, and more mana in Utopia Sprawl, so do we just see what we get with Atali first? Yeah, suppose we can do that. See if we're actually allowed to turn in with Atali. We are allowed to go through to attack, so we will trigger it, go at Narset and try and make them use the Maze of Ith. Just hope that we actually get something good here. There is an Angel of Indemnity. When it enters the battlefield, return a target permanent with mana value 4 or less from graveyard to the battlefield. I'll have a look in a minute for that. Vile Manifestation. +1 to power for each card with cycling in your graveyard, so that'll be a big fat blocker. Garrett Wildspeaker, and a Slime Against Humanity for us. So we can grab back the Consecrated Sphinx here actually. Does it care about power, did it say? No, mana value, not power. Anyway, we'll just cast everything. So Slime Against Humanity, gonna make a little ooze, just a 2/2. Get a Planeswalker which counts towards a card type for loot. Might distract our opponents away from our life total as well. And a decent blocker with lifelink on the Angel as well. So getting some half decent hits there. See what we can target. We've got the Topiary Stomper, a bunch of lands. Imprisoned in the Moon could take out a big attacker, which is probably the thing to do. We've got Doc Urlock as well. I think I'll go for Imprisoned in the Moon. And that will go after the 9/9. Because these things do have trample, so that's a lot less power that our opponent's attacking him with. And still in the attacking phase, I think we're going to have to make a blocker with the Garruk as well. So after that, it is, I don't think it really matters what order we do things in. Let's go for the Lotus Cobra. We'll get our first enchantment down with the Utopia Sprawl as well. Go after a forest with that and we'll make it tap for... yeah, it'll have to be a red, I think. And then just play a forest from exile. Don't have any benefits from playing things from exile, unfortunately, at the moment. There's multiple cards on Magic Online that aren't available, so you play a card from exile and deal damage equal to the mana value. And we're not able to do that, unfortunately, because they're not on Magic Online for whatever reason. I think we've only got the 40k version of that card. Keeper of Secrets, I think it's called. Anyway, Azusa. Might as well get it out. And then we'll... yeah, we're empty-handed, so mana's down on the Garruk. And we could give this Indestructible because it's a lifelinker. Yeah, it'd be nice to keep loot, but we've got exile and stuff to worry about. There's still a Lightning Greaves over here, so yeah, we'll try and keep hold of a lifelinker while we're at such a low life total. So getting a lot done off the Atali and the loot there, but I'm not sure it's enough with this being such a heavily interactive game. And we have to hope that none of our opponents scoop early on us and take their permanents with them. That's always the issue you run into on Magic Online. Taking this lifelink away could be the difference between us winning and losing. Illuna coming down and mutating once again. We do have a flying blocker now. Noteworthy that a Chroma's Memorial wouldn't allow them to mutate again because it would give their stuff protection from red. Looks as though the Orzhov player is going to have some more removal, but doesn't go for it. So either mistook what his removal does or allows the mutate for whatever reason. Mutates into a Thrumming Stone. So yeah, usually see that in Rat Colony decks and the like, but will work just fine making ooze tokens. Are we interested in seeing a Slime Against Humanity deck? Not sure which commander I'd use for it. I haven't really looked at that card since it released, but seems like it'd be a fun build. Commander is now a 14/14 Flying Trample, and we've only got one flyer at the moment. Illuna at us, as you would expect. If we just get one good trigger off loot, I'll be happy with this game. But I don't think we're destined to do all that well. So block with our only means of blocking. We block 5 of the damage, we gain 5 life, and yeah, that effectively means we only take 4, although commander damage is relevant here. So we go up to 9 commander damage, but only down to 8 life. Tapping down a bunch of his permanents there. I think he tapped every permanent so that he could further trigger the Mesmeric Orb, fishing for something decent. Maybe the Lightning Greaves will get removed by the Orzhov player, because I don't imagine, with the Swords to Plowshares in the bin, we're going to be allowed to keep the loot. Narset's at a point where he can wipe the board as well quite comfortably. Could go for a Farewell or something. This looks like the commander though. Yep, there it is. A Farewell. He tapped for the Jeskai colours, so I assumed it was the commander, but unfortunately not. Exiling everything apart from graveyards. Didn't go after graveyards as you would expect. So return our commander to the command zone. Didn't go after artifacts either, because obviously he's got a lot of artifacts in play. So we'll be able to get down our commander, put the Mithril Coat onto it and make a token with this, and hopefully that'll be of some relevance, but it assumes that we survive against the Narset. Any removal from the partner player? Nope. So allowed to put Shroud on there. And Narset goes into the left, so we're allowed to stick at 8 life. And stealing a Skull Clamp from the bin. Won't be able to equip it to his commander though. And now we're seeing something from Ravos and Tormod. It is just plain cycling with an Alabaster. It'd be good to see a Living Death from this player, but I doubt that's what he's going for. If he is going for Mass Reanimation, he'll be happy to see the Mesmeric Orb, especially against a couple of Instants and Sorceries players. Skyclave Apparition goes after the Lightning Greaves, you would assume? No, going after the Mesmeric Orb instead. I'd be more worried about removing the commander actually. It's useless having a bunch of mill if they can't keep their commander in play. Anyway, just continuing to hold up mana, maybe for a Volrath Stronghold. Loot, once again, not allowing us into any triggers. We do get a land to make more tokens though, so go for our commander. And then Mithril Coat onto there. Tick down with the Garruk to make a beast. Obviously if we had something like Gaia's Cradle and a grip full of lands, we could be untapping them here. And then Wooded Foothills, we will get another... we'll consider getting another Surveil land out. We can make another zombie with that, of course. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 card types at the moment. Once again, see if we can actually trigger the loot. Don't particularly care if we win or lose, I just want to see this exile a load of cards really at this point. A Farseek this time, and that does have ripples, so not likely to find any more cards with the name Farseek in the deck. Cracking a Shire Terrace as well. 0 cards in hand though, so he's run out of Slime Against Humanities to play. So I might have kept hold of the Farseek personally and tried to bluff with it. Doesn't seem as though players are really bothering about what might be in each other's hands though. So now Narset, 2 cards in hand and a bunch of graveyards to look at. I would keep the graveyards open, but Magic Online just tends to close it of its own accord. Still trying to dodge that Swords to Plowshares though, I think. Goes into the left, and they are on 10 points of commander damage with Narset. And targeting the Mind Stone, okay. So still going to be fishing for stuff. Might be able to empty his hand this turn and then draw 2 off the Mind Stone again. Decided to crack the Mind Stone straight away though. So at 3 cards in hand during the attacking phase. And there is a Felidar Retreat, buffing the Narset after the fact. Able to re-equip the Lightning Greaves onto things though once he makes tokens, unless he wants to go for the Vigilance and plus counters. Playing a land into that straight away and does go for the Cat token. Still can't make great use of the Skull Clamp though. Still puts the clamp onto the Cat. So just wants to use it as a blocker, not sure how many people are going to swing in over there with the Spires of Arazka in play though. And once again we see more cycling from the partner player over here. Not sure what the aim is with all this cycling so far. Turn 9 and it hasn't paid off yet. Activating Volrath's Stronghold and pointing it at the Angel of Ruins. Draws into and plays the Angel of Ruins, so 2 artifacts and or enchantments are exiled. See if he goes after our Mithril Coat. May well go after the Utopia Sprawl in order to have a see less cards, fewer cards. Okay, goes after Thrumming Stone, which isn't as much of a threat anymore. The Lightning Greaves as well. I might have been tempted to go Lightning Greaves and the Felidar Retreat personally, because Narset is going to get away from us if we're not careful. But maybe there'd be some good luck over here and he'd get into the Slime Against Humanities. Can get rid of us pretty quickly with a 5/7 flyer anyway. And seeing as how we are teetering at a life total anyway, we'll try and get into something decent with our commander, and we will go for the Thundering Falls, I think the Surveil land's called. Yep, that's the one. See if we can get rid of anything off the top that we don't care about. Trigger Field again, get the Surveil. Alright, there is a Camille, however you say it. I think we will definitely keep that on top. Yeah, we're not going to mill anymore thanks to the Mesmeric Orb going down, so loot will see the top 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. Alright, we get some good cards there. And a Rhythm of the Wild, so that might be useful. Let's see what we can do here. We'll go Jeska's Will first of all. Actually don't make that much mana. Well, it pays for itself at least. So cast that, point it over here at the player with 3 cards in hand. Can always untap lands with the Garruk if needs be. And that allows us into the first battle that we've seen. If Magic Online would be so kind as to bother showing us. Invasion of Kaldheim. Exile all cards from your hand and draw that many. We've got lands as well to make. A fetch land could make 2 zombies, but we need to be careful of the amount of life that we're taking here. So let's go Reflecting Pool. We do have a land that taps for 2 mana thanks to the Utopia Sprawl, so untapping that with Garruk could be useful. Let's go for the battle here. And we'll have this player defend it, seeing as how he's wide open. And if we decide to take this out, it could be an enchantment where we discard a land to shock something, and whenever we discard a land, exile the top card and we can play it. And there we go, we've got some means of playing cards from Exile Matters. So I think we get that into play here. Like I said, we're not winning this one, but we get to see what the deck does at least. We'll play the Camille, and that will make us a Wolf token because we're playing it from exile. And then do we go Sylvan Library just for the sake of looking at more cards? Yeah, don't see why not. Let's untap that and that, and then we'll just tap down the Enchanted Land, go for the Sylvan Library. And it's noteworthy that for the sake of making more wolves, if we were desperate, we could counter our own Sylvan Library with Fierce Guardianship, but obviously not all that interested in that. And don't have means of making multiple lands anymore, unfortunately, so can't go for the Flooded Strand. We'll just end up losing those cards. Let's go and take out this battle. I'm gonna, just in case there's interference here, I'm gonna take in multiple tokens at the invasion. Don't think it's going to be of any relevance, but you never know, we might need to shock something. Noteworthy, we do still have this as a little bit of a threat, because if they get into some enchantment removal, they could have it come back into play, or actually it's already in play, so it wouldn't need haste, and they could swing in with it straight away. Anyway, taking down our first ever battle, I think. I don't think I've ever played with battles on the channel. Didn't really think all that much of them, but makes sense to play them in this deck because they are a new card type. Make another wolf token, and Pyre of the World Tree comes in. Don't have any cards in hand though, and certainly not any lands. And we get our Discover 5 with the Chamil. And that is a Song of the Dryads. So, without the Lightning Greaves, we can go after the Narset here, which I think is fine. And then if the Angel swings in towards us, then so be it. We're certainly not trying to win here, just trying to showcase the deck at this point. Now, if we'd managed to keep a bunch of tokens in play at this point, the Overrun from the Garruk would actually be relevant. +3/+3 and Trample. We're a few turns away from it at the moment, unfortunately. And it's noteworthy, we do have until the end of our next turn to get down Rhythm of the Wild if we like, so that might be of some relevance. Exiled that with the battle, of course. Our opponent top decks into a Scryland, so not doing much of anything. Appreciating playing it out though. Can he afford his commander here? He must be able to. Just playing that out and scrying again with the Path of Ancestry it's called, yeah. Oh, it's noteworthy actually that taking out the battle does turn it into an enchantment. That's worth pointing out, so sometimes it's worth just having the battles in play so that you can up the number of card types you have. We've reduced the card type by 1 here, and plus there's an argument to be made for going after life totals at turn 10 as opposed to battles. Anyway, Narset swinging in at us and trying to have us kill this off to give him more card draw, which I think we have to do unfortunately. So we'll get rid of a wolf. If I had a 0 powered creature, I'd obviously block with that. So able to trigger the Skull Clamp, draw 2 cards with that, and the Felidar Retreat is still in play, so able to make another creature and do that again next turn, which was one of the reasons I said before to try and get rid of this thing. But they can't really abuse the clamp. At least, so again making a cat after a land and then clamping. Could always wipe the board here as well to trigger it again. Oh, that's a really good one. That's a pet card of mine in Jeskai decks. Whirlwind of Thought is excellent. So everything's going to cantrip here, and there we go. There's the Blasphemous Act again. So not going to get hit by the Angel at least. And once again the Mithril Coat keeping our commander in play. The Skyclave Apparition, going to give a token over here. I can't remember what went under that. It's a 2 toughness creature which can get the clamp again. 4 cards in hand. Swiftfoot Boots, so another means of haste. Still doesn't have access to his commander though because we obviously turned it into a land. Putting the boots onto the illusion, might as well if he doesn't have anything else to do. Clamp on there as well. So as it stands now, we're only going to look at 1, 2, 3 cards with the loot. So would have been a 4th with the battle, like I said. That was the argument for leaving that alone. I thought we'd keep hold of the creatures, to be honest. Auramancer will search for an enchantment, or return an enchantment from graveyard to hand, targeting the Astral Drift with that. Alright, but just leaving it at that, so loot going to get us some card advantage again. And this time we have a Tireless Provisioner, just the Rhythm of the Wild, and enough you can't refuse. Not doing too well here, are we? Maybe need to up the curve in this deck, although it's the first time I've ever played it, so can't really judge. We'll say yes and yield to the Sylvan Library, which I will now be glad that I got down. Not going to be able to take life to this though, but we will be able to shuffle if we want. Alright, there's a Delayed Blast Fireball, which isn't too useful at the moment, unfortunately. So, do we want a creature and an enchantment in play? We'll have the Tireless Provisioner. Would it be better to have Swiftfoot Boots so that we can more guarantee that loot will be safe? Yeah, let's put both of those on top. We'll have to shuffle those away. So we'll go for the Tireless Provisioner first. We could make some food with that actually. Just treading water and seeing how long we can survive here really. Could have got down Rhythm of the Wild first I suppose. Let's do that now. Could have had a plus counter on it. And the partner player holding up priority while that was on the stack for whatever reason. Let's go for a Beast token with Garruk. I've kind of given up on the whole Overrun thing. We want as many bodies in play as possible so that we can try and block any surprise attacks. Let's go for the Swiftfoot Boots. Attempt to get that onto our commander. Alright, and that successfully lands, so now we can go Bloodstained Mire, Field of the Dead triggers. We'll get a food token, unusually, with the Tireless Provisioner. Don't often get food with this one. And we'll see what we get with the big artifact, because we might wish that we'd held up some mana, but likely just going to crack the food straight away. So Chimil goes on the stack, and of course we haven't shuffled yet. Dirt. So get down, Dryad of the Elysian Grove. So that's an argument for saving the shuffle for next turn, so that we can get into something different. I'll try to get into something different with the artifact there. Anyway, came in with a plus counter. Let's go for the food being cracked now. And then we'll hold on to this now that it's tapping for colours anyway, thanks to the Dryad. At the end of this player's turn, if we don't make use of it, we can get down a Shockland tapped and crack the food token. Or we could save it for the Silver Library, like I said. So again, we'll see if the Ooze player can get into a big scary Ooze. Umori might be a good one. Can that discount sorceries? The black and green thing that is a companion? Can't remember. Anyway, does manage to top deck into one. And that comes down as a 2020. Luckily the graveyards have been left alone. And now there's still more for the Jeskai player to do before his turn starts. It's Narset's to win here, really. A Sublime Epiphany, so going to bounce the Song of the Dryads back to us. Create a token copy of the token that they've got and draw a card, so that cantrips as well. They're not countering with it, at least. Well have countered the Swiftfoot Boots, which could be of some relevance, but because we had that in the exile zone and our opponents could see it, they didn't go for the Sublime Epiphany there. Anyway, they'll get a turn with the Narset, and then we could Song of the Dryads onto it again. That's where it's of some relevance that it feels bad sometimes exiling the counterspells from your library, but the fact that this was held up and our opponents could see it means that the Sublime Epiphany didn't counter the Swiftfoot Boots and do everything it wanted to do there. Although it's noteworthy, they didn't counter the Ooze either. But yeah, got two Key Power Swiftfoot Boots in play there when we may well not have done. A land into more cat tokens, or actually plus counters and vigilance. So once again, I argue that shouldn't even be in play. And Narset getting buffed obviously means they can do better stuff. A Sol Ring will trigger the Prowess again. And Infuriate now, target creature gets +3/+2 until the end of the turn, going on to the Narset, triggering Prowess and card draw. So I'm thinking being able to play at flash speed would be useful in this deck. Alchemist Refuge on a land and Leyline of Anticipation, stuff like that, so that we could get things like this in at flash speed, because it's not the best at playing with instants, this deck. And then we don't have to wait an entire turn cycle to hope that loot survives, we can just get it in at the end of a turn. Yeah, I'm thinking that that might be worth including. 2+ counters, it gains Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible and Haste until the end of the turn. Again onto Narset. So how big's this thing now? It is currently a 9/9. Buffed up to a 10/10 with Prowess, then a 12/12 with the counters, assuming that he doesn't continue to go off, which he probably will. We haven't taken any commander damage yet, but it's our life total that we're concerned with. So we are probably going down here, thanks to all the Prowess. We can get another zombie in play though, and gain 3 life with a food token, so see how our opponent attacks before anything else. Probably turns everything in at us. Does have to worry about the swing back though, potentially. Unless he's got removal in hand for the use token. Alright, no, spreading the damage, 6/6 to the right, 7/5 to the left. After the Skull Clamp trigger there, I'd take that damage personally. Narset triggers. That is a 12/12 at the moment, but is about to be Prowessed. Exiling Anachroma's Memorial, so there we go. Able to get a copy of that. Cantrips, Prowess, will give flying and protection and all the rest. Oh, and of course they've got Vigilance. They had Vigilance beforehand from the Faladar retreat, so they don't have to worry about the swing back at all. So we have a distinct lack of flyers, and we're only on 10 life, so no point doing anything else here unless our opponents have something for us. Well, this player's got 0 cards in hand. So we'll just take the damage. I think we did quite well there in the end, considering all the interaction that was there during the game, and our opponents, I think, slightly had it in for us at the beginning, so I think we lasted quite a long time considering. And like I said before, we get to see what the deck does at least. So we will try this one again if everyone wants to see it. So down we go to -3. We would have had to have gone down a life for the fetch, and then we would have only gained 3 life anyway, so still would have been on -1, I think that would have been. A Sword of Feast and Famine, able to give pro green and black. And because our blue enchantment went down, Imprisoned in the Moon, the Ooze token 9/9 comes back out. So it's 2-on-1 against Narset, you would think, but not any cards in hand for the Teamer player. Could draw cards equal to power and that would get him back in it, but costs a decent amount of mana to do that. Traverse the Outlands would be good in this deck as well, so that you could make massive Ooze and ramp off that. Anyway, the Sword going on to the Narset, so that will have +5/+5 without the prowess. And the partner player going for Vorwath's Stronghold, which went after a Realm Cloaked Giant, which is the adventure one that is 5 mana to wipe the board, I think. We'll soon find out. I'll be surprised if Narset doesn't have a counterspell in hand for it. Yeah, that's the one. Realm Cloaked Giant, and Cast Off is the destroy all non-giant creatures, so that was all the creatures in play. Triggers the Skull Clamp to draw 2, taking Narset up to 8 cards in hand. So even without being able to abuse it, Skull Clamp has done a hell of a lot of work getting our opponent back into it. And then a Blood Fountain, just continuing to want to discard things into the bin, but he doesn't seem to be getting into all that much reanimation. Turn 11 now, and pretty much all he's done so far. Managing to top deck into 1 again. A Slime Against Humanity, will that be a 21/21 at this point? Yes, it will. Narset back again. Has not missed a single land drop yet, I think. Swiftfoot Boots. And that is an Astral Drift, so cycling, able to point Astral Drift at the Narset. So exiling that for now. Buying themselves another turn. Followed our retreat, making a cat. Then a Storm Surge Kraken, so they've still got mana for haste and an equip with the sword to untap the lands. Throwing the sword onto here. Oh, and I forgot all about the Akroma's Memorial, their stuff has haste anyway. So swinging in with Vigilance to the right. This player only has 3 cards in hand, but will have to discard. So hits, goes down to 8, untap the lands, and discards a Dying to Serve. Followed by Ugin the Spirit Dragon, we saw discarded or milled from the top of our library previously. Would have come in handy that game. And tick down on that, it's at 6 loyalty now, enters with 7, so just -1. Got rid of the token and the Blood Fountain, and their own token, noteworthy. And Narset comes back in at the end step. So without refilling their hands, we may well have been the only ones that could have got rid of Narset, could have dealt with it. Would have taken a while, they're getting way more value than we ever got, unfortunately. Alright, went for a Decree of Pain there, taking out 2 creatures. And that means that he got to draw 2 cards, and cycling again. That is Lurching Rot Beast. Really trying to get into that Rise of the Dark Realms or whatever he's got. But there's still a bunch of haste over here, so it's just a matter of time before Narset gets it. Need to be able to take out all the artifacts, really. Which both of our opponents should be able to do in the colours they're in. But that assumes there's no counter magic here as well. Gimli's Reckless Might. Creatures you control have haste. And whenever you attack, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, target attacking creature you control fights one you don't. Yeah, forget about that card. That's 4 mana is a little bit expensive, but with the power creep nowadays, I'm surprised that's not 3 mana, to be honest. 8 power is a lot to ask for. No, that's not good. This player deciding to scoop then. Yeah, it might be that this player could only take out 1 opponent. Oh, and the other player must have scooped it up as well then. So, yeah, it's not likely that they would have done anything against Narset, but at least force Narset to take one of you out, and then the other one might top deck into something good. A Vandal Blast or Steer Command, something like that. Farewell. It all depends on what our opponents actually have in their decks, though. Anyway, I think we got to Shawflute a little bit towards the end there, so that's good. I'm happy with that. If you want to see more from it, then as ever, let me know in the comments section. Big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel. You can do so yourself via the link in the description below. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.